me begin the top story, in fact, with a short rewind. April 2024, Lok Sabha elections were going on, and in a plush Gurugram locality, reportedly several banners claimed "Kaam nahi to vote nahi." These banners came up by residents from that locality who decided to boycott Lok Sabha polls over lack of basic amenities like proper sanitation, roads, open sewers, and streetlights. Again, that was in April 2024. Now, cut to August 2024. Battle lines are again drawn in poll-bound Haryana, but yet the picture hasn't really changed much for the Millennium City. It commands 70% of investments, raves of its financial and technological prowess, boasts of housing of over Fortune 500 Fortune 500 companies, and yet beneath that shiny urbane veneer lies the ugly reality of inadequate civic infrastructure, corruption, substandard drainage, crippling traffic year after year. So the question is, are urban issues like these issues at all this assembly election? In fact, to discuss this and more further, now I'm joined by Anu Lall, who's an activist and lawyer, and Madhavan Narayanan, senior journalist. Thank you very much, Anu and Mr. Narayanan, for joining us this evening. Let me come to you first, Mr. Narayanan. What are the issues this assembly elections, and how much of an ease have you sensed that people have with the present government?
Well, I have to take you back a little, Mita. Haryana has never been a typical Indian state in terms of identity politics, in terms of, except when you look at caste, because the Jats are, I have to give you a slightly longish answer there. The Jats are a prominent community, and so are Ahis. I have traveled through Haryana long years ago when there was no such thing as a millennium city. So the issues, if you look at Haryana, are very atypical because the Jat community is heavily agriculture oriented. There's a lot of farmer related issues that are very important. Apart from reservation and quota issues related to employment of Jats, who are increasingly an educated and politically a very aware community. They are the rural middle class. If you were to ask me, which is the biggest rural middle class community in India, I am probably going to put my money on the Jats of Haryana and the Gaundars of Tamil Nadu. So therefore, there is a big schism. Now, this is very interesting. The schism is that millennial city has its own issues that are right on plain on your screen right now. So, but Haryana's Gurugram was essentially built by the private sector, especially builders like DLF. So the government came as an afterthought. So there is a Sphinx-like character to Haryana. Part of it is very futuristic in an urban way. Part of it is politically speaking, disconnected from this and therefore preoccupied with issues related to reservations or farming. And off late, after the Vinesh Phogat episode, it's also about women's safety and a certain sense of pride associated and dignity associated with the community. And the Congress has always been a very strong party in Haryana because Haryana is the most rational, if I may say so, because I come from the South and, there is this whole rationalist movement was prominent in the South. But if you look at the North, not so much. But in Haryana, yes, if you go back to even the times of Sir Chotu Ram. So therefore, it makes it a very interesting case.
Yes, Mr. Narayanan, I agree that while there may be legitimate and right concerns over, of course, women's safety, the viability of the Agnipath scheme, there is farm distress, agrarian issues. But Anu, let me put that question to you. Are urban issues getting sidelined? Of course, these issues are important. I'm not debating that. But what about urban issues? I mean, ever since Gurugram was formed, we've been seeing every year after year, issues of open drains, of open sewers, of infrastructure breakdowns, especially during the monsoon season. However, yet we just end up putting out pictures of those, and yet political parties don't really take any concrete steps. So are these issues getting sidelines? How many leaders have you actually found in the run-up to the election speaking on some of these issues?
Short answer, 0. So,
Anu,
urban Indian voters, urban Indian taxpayers, unfortunately don't matter. Okay, in the larger scheme of things, what we are really are, in Hindi, what we say, kamau poot, that is what we are. We are just taxpayers, and our issues don't matter. So I've been making these videos on Gurugram flooding for many, many years. And for so many years, for 10 years, we've had BJP in power. there has been no support coming from Congress or AAP on any of these issues. If these issues were important, at least some opposition would have come to our side to, talk about this, or to even debate this, or to do a dharna, a rail roko, the works, the political kind of activism that happens. There is no support from any party. And this is not just about Gurgaon alone. I keep saying this. Bangalore under Congress is also the same, and Delhi under AAP is also pretty much the same. So the thing is that urban Indian taxpayers don't really matter to anybody, is what my conclusion is, very sadly.
Is it because, Mr. Madhavan, you can't really win elections on the basis of development?
Well, it's not so simple as that. I have a larger anthropological way of looking at things, because I'm not a citizen. Let me be very blunt with you. I'm not just an average citizen. I've been for decades covering Indian politics and economics and policies from various perspectives. So I have to give you a big picture analysis of this. Whether it is the BJP or the Congress or the AAP, they all are heavily focused either or on rural issues, including caste and identity and farmers and stuff, which is where the votes are. Or there is this Aam Aadmi Party, although it's an urban party, it's still waking up. It's a kid in the block. So they are trying to concentrate below the radar on issues like health and education, especially because in Delhi, in Haryana, they have never been in power. In Punjab, they have a fiscal problem, which is inherited. Whereas in Delhi, they have education. A lot of the powers do not really exist for the Aam Aadmi Party because of the way Delhi statehood is structured. But what is the real crisis, urban crisis, like a place like Gurugram, falls between the stools. And therefore, I have always argued that it is a taxpayer's problem that they are not really waking up to how they should influence politics. Because voting, if you have a postgraduate degree and you are in the 25 to 30% income tax bracket, then you have an extra responsibility as a privileged citizen to interfere in politics beyond just voting. That is not happening because people think that your job is done the moment you pay tax. It's not. It's only the beginning. There is a lot of vigilance and activism required. My argument is that urban Indians are not really interfering in rural politics the way it should, by actually identifying social groups that they can collaborate with, be it farmers or be it women's issues or whatever.
Okay.
I'm not going into the details.
Okay.
So, and the other problem,
so Mr. Narayanan, that's on the side of citizens, Mr. Narayanan. But let me make quote some leaders that have made some statements. Mr. Chautala, former Deputy Chief Minister of Haryana, says that nothing can change till we study urban planning and introduce urban planning in colleges. Of course, he was referring to the kind of infrastructure challenges that Gurgaon really faces. And then Raj Babbar in May 2024 stated, and I quote, that I haven't found the time to make a local manifesto, but if I win, I will make sure that there are civic amenities, hospitals, roads and schools. I mean, when Raj Babbar says that I haven't had the time, I haven't find the time to make a local manifesto, that really reflects the lack of political will. And like you rightly stated, that citizens have not really been able to sort of, gather momentum around these issues, and which is why there is that kind of lack of political will, even though these leaders may acknowledge that there are urban issues that need to be resolved.
Yeah, let me be very blunt on that. It's
Mr.
not
Narayanan.
just about politicians, if the questions are directed at me. It's also about the way you plan cities in India. And Noida is a very good contrast to Gurgaon. Noida is in UP, but it was built mostly by the central government's Indian Administrative Service. Noida had first infrastructure and then it had housing. Gurgaon is the opposite. You have multi-storied towers and you think you're New York, but you step out and basically it's also because India's upper middle class likes to live in a fool's paradise. They think luxuries and lifestyle first, and then they think of the underprivileged. And therefore, they have to pay the price for it. So it's not your country, you're a privileged citizen. You have to go that extra mile. And that is not happening. And politicians do not have sufficient knowledge for urban planning. It has to be led by civil society organizations and pushed in various directions. It has to be an entrepreneurial approach by the citizens.
So they have bureaucrats to work for them and guide them, and they have all the resources at their disposal.
Yeah, they have to. For instance, my concrete suggestion is that there should be an electoral trust formed by Gurgaon's high-rise millennial citizens. They'll say we'll fund only candidates who will speak for us. We will measure them by what we do, and not just by simple half-baked promises. Everybody's after making one statement to a TV channel, they'll go and play their own rural politics. We have to hold them accountable. You have to go that extra mile. You have to make
Yes.
it happen.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. Let me come to you, Anu, on the issues this assembly election. Of course, there are urban issues, and there is voter dissatisfaction. But how much of that is going to impact the BJP's grip on power? What are you hearing around yourself? Because there are several other issues as well, like infighting. There is anti-incumbency as well, perhaps, and the central government is this time leading an alliance. What kind of an impact are you seeing around yourselves? What are people really asking for this time around?
See, I'm not a political analyst, right? So I may not be able to comment on who's winning or who's losing.
Yes, but just what are you hearing around yourselves?
But,
what are people really talking about?
But to get us, I mean, there is, of course, a huge anti-incumbency where I am. And it's been there for a very long time because of several unaddressed issues. But from where I come from, we are a very small population, which doesn't really matter on the Haryana assembly polls as a larger picture. These urban constituencies are such small blips, which are tax contributors, but are not really contributing in the choice of who will eventually rule us. So in that sense, when urban issues don't matter, we as voters also don't matter that much. And to come back to what you were talking about, urban planning, there is a huge big department of town and country planning. It's not that town and country planning has fallen from the roof in Noida. It is fallen from the sky in Noida. It is the same IS officers. Absolutely. It's the same cadre of town and country planners that made Noida happen, that made Mysore happen, Indore happen, Chandigarh happen. Why can't we make this happen? And something which gets totally out of focus here is that there is a huge amount of corruption. Eventually, there is a Babu builder nexus, which is ruining cities.
Absolutely.
And we have to put the spotlight on that. And that's the elephant in the room, which often goes unaddressed. And there is enough administration infrastructure. Every district in India has a DC, every big city has a MCG, has an MCD. They have areas defined for them, and they have crores of rupees being pumped. Just to give you an example, 100 crores was spent in 3 years to clean up drains, to clean up drains in a small little area that MCG.
But Anu, these are some of the issues like, even unemployment, for instance. Haryana is about to cross the national average so far as unemployment is concerned. But these are some of the issues: unemployment, corruption, or infrastructure breakdown. Its leaders, only when they are in the opposition side, that's when they speak about. In fact, we're also learning that former Chief Minister Bhupinder Singh Hooda has said that unemployment is the biggest problem in Haryana as of now. But Mr. Madhavan Narayanan, let me come to you on the other issues that are surrounding this election. What is going to be the impact of these two wrestlers joining the Congress party on Haryana elections? Because we saw how wrestler protests really panned out following Fogat's Olympic disqualification, and that sort of perhaps catapulted her to the status of an icon. How much of a difference will her presence make to the Congress party, and how much of a dent will it make on the BJP vote share?
Yeah, Sumita, let me take you back to what I said at the beginning so that you really understand what's going on. First of all, Jats play a very important role in Haryana, both as the farming community as well as an increasingly aware community in which women are at the forefront and have higher degrees of education. Even Haryana's idea of employment is very different from the UP idea of employment. In UP, they are looking for livelihoods. In Haryana, they are looking for secure, long-term, decent jobs. So similarly, whether it's unemployment or the dignity of women as shown by the Vinesh Phogat affair or episode, as well as the farmers, MSP, they all converge on what I call the Jat Ahir consciousness of Haryana, which is a very middle-class, urban, progressive kind of a thing, not driven by religion, not driven by even urban concerns as much as social mobility or upward social mobility of a community. That therefore there is a very strong anti-incumbency wave because the BJP, in my opinion, has spent a lot of time addressing issues like Ram Mandir or corruption in a political sense, not the sense of Babu Builder nexus that Ms. Lall has been talking about, because corruption is at various levels. It's not just about electoral bonds or Bofors or the Congress BJP shootout
Yes.
level of stuff. There's a lot of average level corruption which exists in every state. Whether it's UP or Haryana or everywhere, that needs to be addressed. But that is also, whenever there's an anti-incumbency mood, everything works against the current government. And right now, there is a certain mood that is built up heavily. And unlike many other states where Congress has been on the decline, in Haryana, Congress has a fairly good party infrastructure. That also, party organization plays a major role in the mobilizing of people and awareness and funding everything. To that extent, Haryana's Congress, like Karnataka's Congress, is a very strong backbone. I won't say that about Congress in every state. I'm just looking at it analytically, clinically. Therefore, all this is certainly going to play a role. And if the way BJP has been playing politics in Delhi is driving Aam Aadmi Party into the arms of the Congress in Haryana. This is how it's working, because nobody wants to lose. And if there is what happens in a democracy is that the moment the politics get vicious, coalitions get built against whoever is the most powerful. It used to be the Congress, today it's the BJP. So if the BJP starts behaving like Congress of the 1980s, then there will be a coalition just like this is how politics works. Therefore, very strongly, there is an anti-incumbency move. Everything from Agnipath to MSP and to Olympian women wrestlers are all converging at a point.
Definitely. And these have been some of the key issues. Some of these... Yes, Mr. Narayanan, these have been some of the key issues. And of course, it looks like Advantage Congress, given the kind of anti-incumbency that is being reported from the state, and of course, various other issues. The key issues, of course, related to Kisan Jawan and of course, Pahalwan, as we've seen how those kind of protests have really panned out over the past 1 year. On that note, thank you very much, Anu and Mr. Narayanan, for joining us tonight and discussing really how the Haryana elections are seemingly panning out. And of course, we'll have to wait and watch till election counting day on what the final results are.
If you like this video, then like, share and subscribe to ET Now.